Good morning, everyone. It's Brenda Quintana here, coming to you from cubiesquest.com. Today is Casing Tuesday. It's the day that we take a card out of the catalog and we copy it and we change something about the card. And the nice thing about our Casing Tuesday group is that you guys can join me and you can also copy the card and you can post it on our Facebook group. We have a Casing Tuesday Facebook group, and then I get to see what you've done with the same card that I've done. So it's not just me stamping, it's also you stamping. So that's what I love about this group. I love that it pushes me out of my comfort zone, because sometimes I pick half the cards and Catalina, my downline, picks the other half. So this week's card was picked by Catalina. Actually, I probably might have picked this card as well, but sometimes it's a card that I wouldn't have picked, and it forces me to think a little differently. So that's what I love about Casing Tuesday. It's about getting out of your comfort zone. It's about using stamps in different ways, and it's about having a starting point too, because I can create a Casing Tuesday card from start to finish, usually within like half an hour or less. I think the longest time, sometimes it might take me, is an hour. But to design it, because you already have some of the elements there, it doesn't take as long as starting from ground zero. So that's what I love about Casing Tuesday. So I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to show you today's card, and then I will show you what I've done and I'll show you how to make it. If you have any questions along the way, please type them in at the end of the video. I will answer them. If I catch them, I feel they're appropriate at the time, I'll try and answer them right then and there. But I will go back and I will scroll back and double check that I haven't missed anyone's question about something that we're doing today, or anything stamping related. You can throw it at me. I'll see if I can answer it. So let me turn the camera around, and if you get motion sick, close your eyes for a moment, and then I will get the setup so I can show you the card of the day. All right, I'm gonna make people motion sick for a moment. Let's get this set up. Move it down maybe a little bit. Okay. So, okay, if you're motion sick, you can now look. This card right here is the card that we're going to be recreating. Now, this one might be a little bit smaller than a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card, but you can make it into a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. So that's what I did. And the main elements of the card, I guess I would say, are like maybe this long banner going across the focal point. I also made sure to include this little bow, which is kind of tiny. I just noticed this now. I didn't notice that before, but right behind this little banner piece, there's another little piece of cardstock. I didn't see that before. Well, that did not get included into my card because I just totally didn't see it. But now that I'm holding it up to the camera, it's like magnifying it a bit and I can see it. Okay, well, I'll show you the card that I made. So I took the design and I turned it vertical. The card was horizontal. Instead of having a boxy focal point, this tree from the iconic Christmas stamp set was large enough that I felt that I didn't need to mat it up. And I thought I would just kind of keep it nice and simple. And so I just kind of did this tone on tone stamping. And then I have the banner across. I kept the bow. And the background was this houndstooth. I used the Year of Cheer Designer Series paper, which kind of has that plaid kind of geometric background look. So this is my card. I'm excited to see what you guys do with this Casing Tuesday challenge this week. But let me show you how I made it. So the main ingredient of this card is the iconic Christmas stamp set, and the ornamental Christmas framelits. They are available as a bundle, and if you purchase them as a bundle, you can save 10%, but you can also buy them separately. I use this really big stamp right here, and then I cut it out with the tree framelit. So let me show you how I do that. So I take a piece of Whisper White cardstock or thick Whisper White cardstock. I use my crumb cake ink pad. And then I've got this big stamp with all the toys and presents and wreaths on it, mounted on an E-block. And then I'm going to hold the ink pad in my hand because this is a big stamp and it's not going to fit perfectly onto the ink pad when I'm doing it. So this kind of allows me to stamp all over. If you're not familiar with Stampin' Up! Ink pads, you're going to love them. They have these finger grooves here on the side, so you can really hold this in your hand nicely. And I'm just tapping lightly because it's a foam pad. So if you squish really hard, you're going to get ink everywhere. You can kind of see I got ink on the corner, but that's just because I dipped down. But if you squish this really hard, you're going to get ink in between the actual images you want to stamp. So you're just going to use like a light kind of tapping motion, making sure you cover that whole stamp with ink. Then you're going to take this and you're going to stamp it down onto your Whisper White piece. I'm using a lot of pressure because it's a big stamp. And there is my stamped image. Let me see, do I need to do anything else before the Big Shot? No. I'm going to bring in my Big Shot. And I'm going to pop this on here. I'm going to use this big tree outline. And I'm just going to frame this up. I've got my magnetic platform on here too. I just kind of keep it on there and use it for most of my framelits, because it just makes it easier for the framelits not to shift around. I will do my little star in a moment. Let's just get this through here and run this through. And you can see how nicely it cut out this tree, and that was really quick. Then I also need to cut a little star. So I'm going to use some gold glimmer paper for that because it's kind of sparkly. And this little star. This is a little scrap piece of the gold glimmer paper that I keep for just such purposes, for little tiny stars and things like that. I use it up. And there's my wee little star. So you might wonder why I didn't maybe emboss this with gold ink. I could have done that, but I wanted to keep the card fairly simple. And if you look at this crumb cake ink, because there's this gold glittery background, it kind of looks like it's stamped in gold anyway. So that's the nice thing about this. I kind of fooled the eye into thinking that I had actually stamped the tree in gold. But it's easier because I didn't have to emboss it. And the next thing we need to do is we need to do this banner right here, the greetings of the season. And because I wanted it in white, I did actually emboss this. So to emboss it, I need a piece of cardstock, and this one I cut to 4 1/4 inches by 1/2 inch. I'm going to take my embossing buddy and I'm just going to rub it over the top. This helps so that stray flecks of embossing powder don't stick to the cardstock and add embossing where I don't want it. Then I've got my Versamark pad, and I've got this big long greeting. And I think that's probably one of the essential parts of this card, is this long skinny greeting. So I looked for that in my stamp sets when I was trying to decide which stamp set I was going to use to create that card. So then I want to just center this as best as possible and try and keep it straight on this crumb cake piece. And I like to dump my embossing powder into a little plastic container. This way I can just open this up, and I can, if I have a small greeting like this, I've got a little baby spoon here, and I just spoon over my embossing powder, and then I can tip it right back into my container without, you know, the mess of using like a sheet of paper and then funneling it back into this. Or you can also funnel it back into the little container it comes in. But the little container it comes in, I feel the embossing powder expands when you take it out, and it's hard to get it back in. So having a bigger container like this helps with that. So then, okay, I'm going to emboss this, and I'm going to grab some locking tweezers. I'm just going to tweeze the end of this. This is going to allow me to emboss this without getting my fingers burnt. You have to be really careful with the heat tool. It is hotter than a blow dryer. This is my heat tool right here. And I'm going to turn it all the way up. There's two different levels. I'm going to turn it all the way up. It's just heating up right now. It's already hot. So I'm going to just do small circular motions. And the white embossing powder is kind of good because it actually turns a different color. You can see how it's darker than the original one that's just sprinkled on there. Once it sets, it's going to be like white. So now I have to be careful that it's getting close to my fingers. I'm going to move away and just let the tweezers hold it for me. So that is my little greeting. Then I'm going to need to create the little banner ends. So I'll use my paper snips. And someone taught me this, and I don't know who, but could have even been a customer of mine. But to create the banner end, you're just going to snip up as far as you want it indented. So I probably want it maybe 1/8 of an inch from the end. So I'm snipping up the center. You can kind of see how I did that. And then I'm going to come in from the corner, and I'm going to snip to that point, that center point, and I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, I didn't do that very well because I didn't cut all the way through, but you get the idea. So that creates the banner end on that side. And I'm going to do the same on this. I'm going to come up to the G. I want the same distance on both sides, but this time I'm going to have to come in a little bit, not quite from the corner because my G was further away. So I'll do this. Okay, move that. Oh, let me move that out of the way. So you can see I created like this little banner cuts on the end. Okay, I think we have all the elements of the card now. We can just put it together. So you'll need a card base. And for my card base, I took a piece of cardstock that is 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and I scored it in half at the 5 1/2 inch mark. Then I folded it, and I used my bone folder to smooth down the fold. Then you're going to need a piece of designer series paper, and I love this paper because it's all gold and white patterns. Let me see, do I have it close by yet? I love this paper because you get, I think you get 3 sheets of each design. Yeah, 3 sheets of each design. So you get this kind of plaid and gold design. You get this beautiful snowflake design. You get this leafy design, and this has kind of a copper and silver on it. And then you get this kind of starburst design. And so it's a really nice neutral paper. So that's great for a backdrop for your cards. And I cut this piece for my card approximately 4 inches by 5¼ inches. And when I was cutting it, I cut that 4-inch length off the 12 by 12, and then I kind of centered my pattern a bit because I wanted it to look centered. So I lost a little bit of the extra cardstock on both ends. So it might not be quite 4 inches by 5¼ inches, but almost. Then I'm going to use my snail because I want a really nice light adhesive that isn't going to wrinkle my paper. And I'm just going to add that to my card front, centered, hopefully. Okay. And then I'm going to take my tree, also take some snail, add my tree. And then I need to add my banner and my star. Dimensionals. We have 2 different sizes of dimensionals right now. And I'm going to use the bigger dimensionals for the banner. Probably need, this is a long banner, so you could do, I think 4 is a good number to put across it. And then for the little star, I'm going to use the mini dimensionals because a big dimensional would not work. Okay, and then I'm just going to remove the backings. They like to stick around, stick to your clothes. So when you're walking in public, people wonder why you've got white things stuck to you, but if you run into a crafter, you know, they know why you have little pieces of paper stuck to you. So then I'm just going to kind of put this across here like that. And then I'm going to add my little star to the top of the tree like that. And then I just need a bow. And I love this 1/8 inch gold ribbon, and it's perfect for tying into a little bow, and I thought it would look perfect down there. And rather than have you watch me tie a bow on camera and get it perfect, I tied my bow in advance. So I just made a little bow out of that ribbon, and I'm going to use a glue dot to attach that. They're on a roll. You can kind of see the little glue dot. Just stick my knot onto the glue dot, and then I remove it, and then you can just stick it down here right under the greeting like that. That is my card. Pretty simple. The hardest part of the card is this embossing. If you didn't want to do embossing, you could probably also get away with doing this greeting maybe in crumb cake as well. It might not be bright enough. You might want to go one shade darker, maybe a soft suede, and then you could eliminate that step of like the hardest part of the card, the embossing, and just do just plain ink, and that would cut down the time on the card. But it's pretty simple. And I love that it's got gold elements that shimmer and shine. Then you could also take one of the other greetings and stamp it on the inside. You've got some greetings right here, like wishing you a very happy Christmas, which comes with the stamp set. So you already have a greeting built into this stamp set that you could use. So let me turn you guys once more. Turn. All right. So that was pretty easy. I hope that you'll join us on our Casing Tuesday Facebook group, and I hope you'll show us the card that you make, because that's the fun of it. We've got a lot of members now on Casing Tuesday, and only a few of us post. So I encourage you to get out there and try making a card. Don't worry if it's not perfect. I've been stamping for a long time. I think I'm trying to think, probably close to 15 years. So, you know, I've got a lot more experience stamping, and don't feel like, oh my gosh, my card's not good enough. Don't feel like that, because the only way you're going to get better at stamping is if you stamp a card and if you share it. That's how you get better, you know, so don't feel like your card's not good enough. You know, most people can make a fairly decent looking card because the stamps and the inks and the embellishments do a lot for a card. So most cards look fairly decent anyway. So just go ahead and post them. This is a learning forum. It isn't like Brenda's perfect card forum, because, you know, sometimes I create a card and afterwards I'm like, ick, I don't even like my card. Or you'll see people posting a card and they'll like, you know, now that I see it posted, I would have done this differently or that differently. And that's great. You know, you're thinking, and that is the point of this forum. It's not about being perfect. Catalina and I do a sample every week so you guys can see what we can do, you know, so you have an idea of where to start and take the card. We're not like, oh, we're fabulous and perfect. We're not. We're not. Absolutely not. We're still learning. I don't pick all the cards and Catalina doesn't pick all the cards. So we are sometimes doing cards that are way out of our comfort zone. So please join us. Please post a card. We'll love to see them. If you like any of the supplies or any of the things that I did today, you want the supplies to make the same card, just click on the link in the description. It will take you to my blog and you can see a full supply list. I also include the measurements of the card. Also in the description of the video, you'll find the link to the Casing Tuesday Facebook group. You can click on there and ask to join, and one of us will approve you today, and you can get right on there and show us what you've done. What else can I tell you? This video is live, but it is also going to be a recording. So you might be watching this and this might be recorded. And later on, I also take it and I put it onto YouTube so that it has a more permanent home. So I'm so thankful that you are here today with me live. I'm just going to scroll up, and good morning to everyone that joined me this morning. Let me scroll and make sure there weren't any questions. I don't see any, but if you ever have a question for me, like, please go ahead and post in the comments. I eventually get to all of them. Facebook doesn't always notify me right away, so if there's a lag between you posting a question and me getting to you, I just know that it's not me generally ignoring you. It's just somewhere, somehow, I did not get your message. So just please poke me again and I will answer it. I'm always happy to answer your questions. So anyway, I hope you guys all have a fabulous week, and I can't wait to see the cards that you post on the Facebook group. All right, have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.